She laughed like she'd just won the lottery. Not the kind of polite chuckle you give to a coworker or the soft laugh you share with your husband when no one's watching. No. This was the full-throated, head tilted back, eyes sparkling performance. The kind of laugh that begs attention, that demands it. And she knew exactly how to serve it, wrapped in sequins and hips that swayed like she'd choreographed every step of her night. The wine bar buzzed with the low murmur of tipsy professionals, overpriced charcuterie boards, and that late evening electricity when the alcohol's just kicked in but dignity hasn't tapped out yet. I was seated at the edge of it all, at my usual stool by the wall, where the light hits soft and the mirror behind the bar lets me watch the room without being in it. My bourbon sat untouched. 2 fingers, no ice. Same order for the last 7 years. Same glass, probably. And then there was Eliza. Silver dress, slit up the thigh, the kind of heels that turn ankles on cobblestone, and that damn bracelet I bought her last Christmas. A chunky gold thing she said was too mature, but decided to wear tonight. It caught the light every time she raised her arm to toss her hair or touch that guy's shoulder. Jake, I think. He looked like a Jake. Tight polo. Veins like ropes down his forearms. The kind of man who probably had a protein shaker in his car and a subscription to cologne. Eliza was glued to his side, her hand curling around his elbow like she'd known him for years. She'd toss her head and tap him when she laughed, as if he were the one married to her. I watched her lean in close, too close, while he whispered something into her ear. And that's when her face shifted. I've seen that look before. It's the "do I dare" expression. It's subtle. Lips part a little. Eyes lower just slightly. A smirk ghosts across the face like a glitch in her usual performance. She didn't know her body betrayed her long before her voice ever did. And she damn sure didn't know that someone else across the room had seen this scene play out before, almost frame by frame. Because it had. 3 years ago, to be exact. Same venue. Different woman. And that man, the stranger watching from the booth near the fireplace with the chipped paint and a half-finished glass of rose, had been where I was now. Back then, it was his wife giggling at someone younger, flashier. She used the same tricks. Touch the bicep. Let the laughter linger too long. Tilt the glass toward your chest to draw the eye. It's not flirting. It's choreography. Eliza didn't know she had an audience that recognized the entire dance. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I wasn't shocked. That died a long time ago. But what did catch my attention was how she looked at me when I met her eye. She waved. Not the kind of wave you give your husband. No warmth. No familiarity. No secret smile between spouses. Just a polite little flick of her fingers. Like I was a neighbor across the street she didn't want to seem rude to. Like I was interrupting her night just by existing in it. A background extra in my own marriage. Jake had no idea. He probably thought she was some glamorous older woman slumming it with a boring accountant. He had no idea that her dress was paid for by the man holding the bourbon she never noticed. Or that the car she bragged about outside was leased under my company. Or that the ring she conveniently took off, because it clashed with the dress, had been handed down from my grandmother, and had more stories in it than she had brain cells left after 2 glasses of red. But the stranger knew. Oh, he saw it. And he moved. Not dramatically, just a subtle reach into his pocket. A quiet swipe on his phone. His eyes didn't leave her as he tapped once, then twice. At that moment, Eliza tossed her hair again, leaned into Jake's shoulder, and whispered something. I couldn't hear it, but the stranger could. He had a device that picked up background sound and filtered it clean. Used it for his job, probably. Or maybe he just had a very long memory and a deep, unhealed scar. And while Eliza purred into another man's ear like I'd ceased to exist, my phone lit up on the bar. Blocked number. 3 buzzes. I picked it up out of habit. I didn't know the voice on the other end. But what it said next would burn into my skull like a brand. You don't know me, but you should hear what your wife just said. And I didn't put the phone to my ear. I hit speaker. Sir, I know this is strange, but I need you to listen. The voice was crisp. No hesitation. No emotion. The kind of tone you get from someone who's already processed the rage and is now running purely on cooled gasoline. The kind of voice that doesn't waver, not because it's confident, but because it's done. I didn't say anything. Didn't have to. The speaker setting on my phone cast a small halo of sound over the bar's hum. At first, no one noticed. The laughter was still bubbling, the jazz still whispered overhead, the clink of glasses still trickled through the air. And then came the giggle. Eliza's. High-pitched. Lilting. Familiar in a way that makes your stomach twist like you've swallowed a battery. I only married him for the house. A pause. He's harmless. Boring. A placeholder. The word placeholder hit like a slap. Not loud. Not messy. But surgical. Clinical. Like I was a sticky note slapped on her life until she found something more permanent. And the worst part? It was her. There wasn't a single doubt. That breathy cadence she used when she was trying to seem carefree. The way she hit the boring like she was flicking lint off her coat. The kind of disdain that doesn't come from drunken word vomit, it comes from practice. The second the words played, the air snapped in half. I didn't move. Not a flinch. Not even a twitch of the fingers. I kept the phone flat on the bar top. The light glowed under my palm. My bourbon sat beside it, untouched. The ice now just a diluted smear at the bottom. Eliza's back was still turned. Jake had said something else, and she was mid-laugh again, her head flung back, her hand on his chest, probably telling him how she used to model in college, or how Dennis doesn't mind when she flirts. It's just who she is. Except this time, the room wasn't on her side. Because people heard it. Not everyone, but enough. The couple 2 tables over, the woman's brow furrowed. A man in a leather jacket, halfway through chewing on a stuffed olive, froze mid-bite. Even the bartender, wiping down the counter near the taps, turned toward me. Toward the phone. Toward her. That word floated in the air like a fart in church. Placeholder. The music continued. Miles Davis trying to do CPR on the atmosphere. But it was useless. The mood had curdled. And Eliza, still oblivious, spun back toward the bar, holding Jake's hand now, like they were in the second act of a romantic comedy. Then she saw me. And the phone. And the faces. Her smile died before it finished blooming. Her eyes bounced from me to the phone to the strangers watching her like they were reading a novel and had just reached the betrayal chapter. She tilted her head, blinked once, then again, and forced a laugh. Dennis, what are you doing? Her voice tried to crawl back into casual, but it tripped over the silence. I didn't respond. Neither did the phone. It clicked. Just once. A clean cut. Whoever it was, they'd said their piece. But they'd done more than speak. They'd detonated something. She reached for the phone, all wide eyes and flailing charm. Was that a prank? What was that? I still didn't speak. Just looked at her. Really looked. I watched her pupils twitch like she was calculating damage. Watched her fake confusion dissolve into a flicker of realization. Watched the exact moment she recognized her own voice and remembered the exact sentence she thought no one else would ever hear. Someone recorded me? That's not even real. It could be AI. Deepfake or something. Her pitch went up. Defense mode. It's fake. You know that, right? You know me. And there it was. That pathetic little lifeline she threw, assuming I'd grab it. Assuming I was still the same quiet man she could spin in circles while she danced in other people's arms. I picked up my bourbon, took one slow sip, set it down, and for the first time that night, I spoke. Funny. You didn't sound bored. She blinked. What? When you said it. You didn't sound bored. You sounded proud. The corner of her mouth twitched, like she wanted to twist this into something. A joke. An apology. I didn't mean it, babe. But it didn't come. Because even she knew the performance was over. And the audience? Already checking their programs for the next act. I stood. She moved toward me instinctively, as if proximity might still fix it. Dennis, let's just go talk. But I didn't touch her. Didn't even look at Jake, who now had the decency to look confused and vaguely terrified. I just walked past them both. The bar door let out a breath of cold air as I stepped into the street. And somewhere behind me, I swear I heard her whisper it under her breath. Who the hell recorded that? She froze like she'd walked off the stage and straight into a spotlight that wasn't hers to control. All that silver shimmer and showboat swagger hardened into something brittle. Her mouth was still slightly open, like her last syllable had been snatched midair and shoved back down her throat. Jake blinked. That stupid grin he'd been flexing all evening collapsed into something more honest, something that said, wait, is this guy her husband? You could see the math happening in his head, He's older. He's calm. He knows something. And everyone's looking at him like he's the only adult in the room. Around them, a ripple. The background chatter didn't rise, it fell. People didn't lean in like in movies. No one gasped. They just stopped. The natural sound of a bar, a Friday night hum of confidence and Cabernet, clogged up with the quiet tension of people realizing they were now unwilling extras in a scene they'd tell their friends about for weeks. Eliza's hand was still hovering mid-gesture, somewhere between flirty wrist flick and desperate damage control. Her eyes darted across the room, hunting for an ally. Someone, anyone who hadn't heard that voice from the phone. Her voice. "You recorded me," she snapped, as narrowing as if offense could be a shield. I didn't flinch. "No," I said. "But someone did." 5 words. Flat. Surgical. No anger. No emphasis. Just a quiet fact, laid out on the bar like a scalpel. And it cut deeper than yelling ever could. She staggered back half a step. Maybe it was her heels. Maybe it was the realization that whatever bubble she thought she lived in, whatever illusion she'd inflated with her charm and cheap seduction, had popped. Loudly. Publicly. I didn't give her a second look. Didn't wait for her to plead, to spin, to redirect with that half laugh she uses when she wants me to feel like I'm the uptight one. The paranoid one. The boring placeholder husband who just doesn't get how social she is. I slid my phone into my coat pocket and turned. She started to move toward me out of instinct more than intention. Like a child chasing a balloon into traffic. "Dennis, wait, can we talk?" "Just us." I didn't stop. Just pushed the door open and let the cold slap me clean. But inside, behind that closing door, I knew what I'd left behind. Not a scene. A reckoning. People were whispering now. Someone near the wine fridge mouthed, "Did he just say someone recorded her?" A man by the hallway to the restrooms muttered, "Was that his wife?" Even though he already knew the answer. And Eliza? Eliza stood in the center of it all, exactly where she'd wanted to be all night. Only now the eyes weren't admiring. They were watching. Measuring. Replaying her voice in their heads like a song they didn't mean to memorize. I only married him for the house. He's harmless. Boring. A placeholder. You can't walk that back. Not when you've said it with your whole chest. Not when it was recorded. Not when your performance's climax ends with your husband walking out, not defeated, but collected. Her moment of power had imploded into a crater of silence and confusion. No one stepped in to comfort her. Jake looked like he wanted to slide into a crack in the floor. A woman at the far booth whispered something to her partner, and they both laughed, but not kindly. Not cruelly, either. Just knowingly. The laugh of people who've seen a mask fall and know exactly what's underneath. The irony? She still didn't ask the right question. She kept asking, "Did you record me?" But the better question, the one that should have kept her up that night? Who did? And why now? Because someone had been watching. Someone knew exactly when to press record. And someone, not me, had decided tonight was the night to pull her world inside out. I didn't go home. Not to the 2-story colonial she liked to show off during garden parties. Not to the granite countertops she told her friends she deserved after putting up with me. Not to the tufted headboard she once said looked richer without my books cluttering the nightstand. I took the long road out of town. Past the pharmacy, past the golf club she pretended to hate but always managed to mention, past the diner where she once joked about how low budget my breakfasts were. And then further. It was nearly midnight when I pulled into the gravel lot behind the storage facility. One of those metal compounds with rusted roll-ups and a keypad that still beeped like a microwave from 1993. No one around. No cameras. Just moonlight bouncing off padlocks and silence thick enough to chill. Unit B-17. Still remembered the code. 0225. My father's birthday. I opened it slowly. The metal door groaned like it hadn't been asked to speak in years. Dust rose from the concrete floor like it had been holding its breath, waiting for me. Inside, it smelled like old wood, faded ink, and time. There were 7 boxes, stacked neatly against the back wall. Labeled in Sharpie. All caps. Dates and phrases. Taxes 2001 to 2009. Dad's tools. Before her. That was the one. Bottom box. Heavy. I dragged it out gently, as if opening a coffin I'd buried years ago. Peeled the tape back like it might bite. On top was a fleece hoodie from my college days. Beneath that, a stack of manila folders, a few photos, an old pocket knife I thought I'd lost in a move. And then, the thing I came for. A red binder. Thick. Zippered. Slightly faded from sun or maybe just time. I laid it flat on the folding chair I kept in the corner for nights exactly like this. Nights when I needed to sit with the parts of myself I'd shelved for later. I unzipped the binder. Inside were plastic sleeves, each one holding a life she never bothered to ask about. Property deeds. Titles with my name, only my name. Notarized contracts from a decade ago, all done before I ever met her. Land plots. A duplex I still owned in North Carolina. An apartment in Pittsburgh I'd been renting out under a shell company. Ledgers with account numbers. The kind of clean, quiet assets she never noticed because I never flaunted them. Eliza liked flash. I liked silence. She assumed our world began when we met. She never asked what I built before her. She never understood how I paid for the house. How I never blinked when she maxed out a card. Or why I never fought her over money. Because she thought she was bleeding me dry. She didn't realize she hadn't even touched the veins. I pulled out one document in particular, folded in thirds, thick paper with a raised seal. A trust. One I'd set up 5 years ago, quietly, with a payout clause that kicked in on sustained evidence of marital misconduct. Signed. Witnessed. Filed. She didn't know I'd already finished preparing for the storm she hadn't even started brewing. Because I knew Eliza. Maybe not all of her tricks, but the type. And types? They don't change. They just get more practiced. I stood, binder in hand, and walked back to the car. The cold cut through my coat, but it felt clean. Like it was scrubbing something off me. Inside the car, I dialed a number I hadn't used in over a year. Marcus. My lawyer. He answered after the third ring, groggy but alert. He didn't ask why I was calling. Didn't need to. I just said, "It's time." Then I hung up. Not another word. Because this wasn't the start of revenge. It was the continuation of a plan she never saw being written. And tomorrow, she'd wake up in a house she thought she owned, with a marriage she thought she manipulated, never realizing that somewhere outside town, a man she once called harmless had quietly begun extracting her from his life with the precision of a surgeon removing rot from a bone. By the time I made it back into town, she'd already started the spin cycle. It was predictable. In that same way a car skids when you yank the wheel too hard. Panicked overcorrection, flashy, loud, and useless. I didn't even need to check. I knew she'd be on Facebook. That's always where she ran first when she wanted control. Not to me. Not to the truth. But to audience management. Sure enough, the post was there. Timestamped 11:48 p.m. A filtered selfie of her in the silver dress. Cropped just above Jake's hand on her waist, of course. Captioned, "Tonight, someone tried to humiliate me with a fake audio clip taken completely out of context. I'm heartbroken that anyone would believe such garbage. If you know me, you know better. I love my husband. Always have." The word always was bolded. As if that'd do the trick. I read it once, then again. Not because I didn't understand, because I was counting how many lies she could fit into 2 sentences. 5, for the record. 6 if you count the implication that she didn't recognize her own damn voice. 12 minutes. That's how long the post lasted with comments on. I watched them pour in, like vultures that smelled something fresh. "This isn't out of context, Eliza. It's verbatim. Why does it sound exactly like your voice, though? Did you really say placeholder? Girl, just say you got caught and log off." She tried replying at first. You could tell she thought she could finesse it. Heart emoji here. Laughing emoji there. "People love to edit things nowadays," she wrote under one comment. "This is exactly why I hate the internet," she replied to another. But then someone dropped the bomb. A repost. From a page called "When People Show You Who They Are." Same clip. Same words. Except now it had timestamps. 9:13 p.m. Background clinks of glass. Someone saying, "Nice shirt, man," faintly in the distance. And then, Eliza's voice, laughing, purring. "He's harmless. A placeholder. Honestly, I just wanted the house. I'll deal with him until I don't have to anymore." Clearer than the first version. Less echo. Less crowd noise. More her. And under that, a single sentence. In case anyone needed context. The stranger, whoever he was, had sent it to me first. And now? Now he'd sent it to her world. friends, co-workers. That book club of hers where they drank more Chardonnay than they read pages. That group she led at the yoga studio, full of suburban women who talked about manifesting intentions while cheating on their diets and their husbands. It spread like spilled wine on white linen. Because Eliza had built her entire personality online. She curated her image like a brand manager on cocaine. Every caption, every boomerang of champagne, every hashtag blessed, hashtag wifey life hashtag. And now it was crumbling faster than her mascara at a pool party. I didn't comment, didn't like, didn't message. I watched. Because she wasn't just trying to fix a mistake. She was trying to erase it. As if denial had magical powers when applied in bulk. As if people hadn't heard her, hadn't recognized her voice, used to hearing it every Sunday morning through their phones, peddling some quote about trust or forgiveness right before she slid into another man's DMs. Her next move? She deleted the original post. Then, 15 minutes later, posted a new one. This time with a selfie of her looking sad, or trying to, and a caption that screamed PR damage control. Taking a break from social. Too much negativity. Please respect our privacy during this difficult time. The kind of statement that always means I got caught, and I don't know what to do with my hands anymore. But it was too late. Screenshots had already been taken. Reposts duplicated. And people don't forget. Especially when you insult your husband on tape, in a public place, while draped over a man whose age you once mocked when your nephew brought home his college girlfriend. I went back to the storage unit that night. Not because I had to. Because I wanted to. I wanted to sit in that quiet, surrounded by the life she never knew I'd built before her. Wanted to sip my coffee from a thermos older than our marriage. Wanted to look at the red binder and remember that this wasn't me reacting. It was me unleashing. She didn't understand it yet, but her frantic scrambling, her phony heartbreak, her attempts to rewrite the narrative, every post she made, every excuse she offered, was just tightening the noose. The call came in just past 1:30 a.m., right around the time I figured she'd hit the panic spiral. I was still at the storage unit, sitting on that old fold-up chair next to the red binder like I was visiting an old friend's grave. The phone lit up. Eliza. I stared at it for a moment, let it ring twice, then picked up, said nothing. Dennis. Her voice was shaking. Not the elegant quiver she used when she wanted sympathy. This was the real kind. The kind that comes after the spotlight dies and the crowd starts throwing tomatoes. I reached over, tapped the small black device plugged into my phone's jack. She never noticed it before. Most people wouldn't. Recording started. You have to listen to me. Please. You can't believe some random guy over your wife. Still, I said nothing. I don't know what he sent you, but it's not real. Or, it's edited or twisted or God. I don't even know anymore. Dennis, I was drunk, okay? I had too much wine. I didn't even mean it like that. She was already unraveling. Not even 2 minutes in. Her voice cracked when she said drunk. Like that was the safety word. Like I'd just science say, well, if you were drunk, then sure, slandering me in public to some boy toy while draped across his lap is understandable. Let me burn the evidence for you. I didn't even know the guy, she went on. He just started talking to me and I didn't think it meant anything. I didn't know anyone was recording. It was just stupid bar talk. There it was. The shift. From I didn't say it till I said it, but it didn't mean anything. For minutes in. Still silent. Are you even listening? I leaned back in the chair, eyes closed, letting her fill the air with confession after confession, each one laced with panic, revision, denial, and just enough fake sweetness to sound like a bad radio play. I love you, Dennis. I know I haven't shown it the right way lately, but I was just feeling insecure. You've been so distant lately, and I thought maybe you didn't care anymore. That's why I said what I said. To feel something. 10 minutes now. Her voice thinner. Hoarse. The tears had started. She sniffled between words, her breath hitching like she wanted me to hear just how hurt she was by the consequences of her own actions. You don't understand what it's like to be invisible, Dennis. You always sit there. With your drink and your silence. And I needed attention. That's all it was. Attention. There it was again. You're too quiet. Too calm. Too boring. It was her go-to script. If I didn't shout, I didn't care. If I didn't beg, She must be winning. I let her go for another 4 minutes. By the time the recording hit the 14-minute mark, she'd talked herself in so many circles. I'm surprised she didn't get dizzy. And every loop just tied the knot tighter. She confessed to saying it. Blamed alcohol. Claimed it was meaningless. Described Jake as just some guy. Implied the clip was edited. Then admitted it was real. Then insisted it wasn't that real. And in the end, she did what she always did when the walls started closing in. She begged, "Dennis, I'm sorry. I really am. Can we just start over? Please? I'll do anything. Anything." The word sat there like a pit in her throat. Like she knew she didn't even believe it when she said it. It wasn't a promise. It was a Hail Mary. I finally spoke. Just once. "Thank you." Then I hung up. Didn't yell. Didn't accuse. Didn't even gloat. Just clicked save on the file. The next morning, Marcus, my lawyer, tagged it in our shared drive under voluntary admission, 1:34 a.m. call. And beneath that, he left a note. Useful for proving awareness, acknowledgement, and intent. Emotional manipulation clear. Timeline consistent with original evidence. In Eliza's mind, that call was a lifeline. In reality, it was the sound of her digging the hole deeper, with her own words, her own guilt, and her own damn voice. She didn't know the law doesn't care about crocodile tears. It listens to patterns. And recordings. She was at the airport. Not to fly. Not yet. She was there because that's what Eliza did when she panicked. She escaped. Impulsively, dramatically. Book a last-minute trip. Miami. L.A. Somewhere with beach chairs and men who didn't ask too many questions. Somewhere she could post a sun-kissed selfie captioned Healing Era, while everything around her burned. She stood in front of the Delta kiosk, a new roller bag by her heels, sunglasses on inside like shame could be blocked out by UV protection. She tapped through the screen fast, destination, nonstop, aisle seat, flexible return, $872.40. She slid the Amex in, declined, frowned, tried it again, slower this time, like that would fix it, declined. She pulled out her phone, now visibly annoyed, as if it was the kiosk's fault for not recognizing her importance. She opened the banking app. Error. Access denied. Please contact your account representative. That's when the first hairline crack formed in her expression. A twitch at the edge of the mouth. The beginnings of confusion. So she did what entitled people do when the world doesn't immediately obey. She called. Straight to the bank. First name basis, of course. "Hi, this is Eliza Dawson. Can you tell me what's going on with my card? I'm at the airport, and it's being declined." The rep on the other end was polite. Distant. You could tell this wasn't their first divorce rodeo. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Dawson, but your name was removed from the account 3 days ago at the request of Mr. Dennis Dawson." Silence. Eliza blinked. "Removed," she repeated, like it was a word she'd never encountered. "No, that must be some kind of mistake. We have a shared account. It's under both our names." Another pause. Then the rep's voice again, cooler now. The account formerly listed under both names was closed. A new account was opened under a business entity, Dawson Holdings LLC. Mr. Dawson is the sole authorized account holder. Now the crack turned into a fracture. She swallowed. Wait, when did this happen? April 5th. 3 days ago. Before the wine bar. Before the recording. Before she realized she was performing for the wrong audience. Eliza hung up. Didn't say thank you. Didn't say goodbye. She just stood there, blinking at the plastic card in her hand like it had turned to glass. Like she could see through it now, to the life she thought she had control over, now slipping brick by brick from her grip. She tried the shared finance app again. Error. Not recognized. No access. No visibility. Everything was scrubbed. The joint savings? Gone. The vacation account? Gone. The autopay bill she used to monitor like a hawk? Locked. There wasn't even a balance listed anymore. Just a message. You do not have permission to view this account. She wasn't locked out of her marriage. She was being excised from it. Surgically. She still had the house key, sure. Still had the Wi-Fi password. But the financial spine? The structure? The power? Gone. Because she never thought Dennis would move before she could maneuver. She thought he'd stall. Beg. Flounder. She didn't expect a chess move. She didn't expect Dawson Holdings LLC. He wasn't reacting anymore. He was executing. Every brick she thought she could stand on, every dollar, every login, every backup plan, was being quietly dismantled and hauled away behind a door she couldn't unlock anymore. She tried calling him. Straight to voicemail. She texted, "Dennis, can we just talk? I don't understand what you're doing." No read receipt. No reply. It was the first moment she felt it. Not embarrassment. Not damage control. Fear. Because Eliza wasn't just losing access to a card. She was finally realizing. He was never the placeholder. She was. It hit my inbox at 4:12 a.m. No sender name. Just a string of numbers. No introduction. No sign-off. Just a subject line that stopped me mid-sip of reheated diner coffee. "You deserve the truth." I hesitated. Not out of fear. Out of calculation. Because when you're dealing with someone like Eliza, and someone who's clearly studying someone like Eliza, you learn to be cautious. You check for malware. You double-check the headers. You don't open Pandora's inbox unless you're damn sure you're ready to deal with whatever crawls out. So I did my due diligence. And then I clicked. It was a single email, but it read like a court exhibit. The first attachment was a zip folder titled Validation ED. Inside, 9 photos, 2 MP3s, a spreadsheet, and 1 PDF file. I opened the PDF first. It was a timeline. Dates, names, venues, cross-referenced receipts, hotel check-ins, Venmo transactions, even Uber drop-offs tied to her name, her burner accounts, and in one case, a spa service booked under L&D, a name I'd only ever seen on fake coupon accounts she used when she wanted to hide purchases. But then came the real fracture. Jake wasn't the only one. 2 other names. Men I'd never heard of. One was a marketing consultant. Met him at a wellness retreat, apparently. The other? A car dealership manager she'd referred to as my little side hustle. Both of them confirmed, via the audio clips, that they thought she was basically divorced. One even laughed. She told me her husband was too boring to notice if the house caught fire. The voice was familiar. Mine didn't catch fire. It burned quietly. The MP3 files were recorded like the first one, clean, background noise intact, with just enough proof that they weren't doctored. One clip had her saying, "It's not cheating if he's emotionally checked out. I'm just cashing the check while I can." Another, "He thinks he's so smart. But the house, the car, the second line of credit, all in his name. Guess who co-signed for the renovation loan he doesn't even remember?" I stopped there, opened the spreadsheet, and that's when the betrayal turned to evidence. She'd forged my signature. Not once. 3 times. Loan documents. A $35,000 line of credit taken out last October, linked to our property, co-signed using a signature she had pulled from an old birthday card I wrote her, scanned into a PDF, and digitally imposed onto the document. The stranger had included a side-by-side comparison, handwriting analysis, metadata. He'd even circled the inconsistencies. This wasn't an affair anymore. This was fraud. She hadn't just embarrassed me. She hadn't just humiliated me. She'd weaponized my trust, turned my name into her blank checkbook. And someone out there, this ghost in my inbox, had tracked every breadcrumb. The final image in the folder was grainy. A candid Eliza and one of the unnamed men sitting in the corner booth of a bar downtown. Her hand on his thigh. Her face tilted, mid-laugh. The same laugh I heard the night of the wine bar. The caption? June 2nd. 2 days after she told you she was visiting her sister in Vermont. I leaned back in the chair. Didn't rage. Didn't throw anything. Just closed the laptop and stared at the binder sitting on the table next to me. I hadn't touched it since the night I drove out here. But now? Now it wasn't a precaution. It was ammunition. Because Eliza hadn't just failed as a wife. She'd tripped into felony territory and left a digital trail so sloppy, it was almost insulting. Marcus would know what to do. He always did. But even he didn't understand what this really meant. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about removal. Total. Permanent. Irrefutable. She wanted to call me a placeholder? She had no idea. She just signed herself out of the story completely. She started with Claire. Of course it was Claire. That was Eliza's safety net. The mutual friend who always played the diplomat, the peacemaker, The let's just all have a glass of wine and talk it out type. Claire hosted the baby showers, the dinner parties, the we really should do more couples game nights events. And Eliza knew Claire was plugged into everything. So she called. Not to apologize. To recruit. It's gotten out of control, Eliza said, voice shaking just enough to seem wounded but not guilty. Dennis is acting like I murdered someone. I said something stupid while tipsy, and now he's making it into this huge legal thing. Claire was quiet. Eliza, you didn't just say something. Okay, but it wasn't serious. He knows I joke like that. And that clip? It's clearly taken out of context. That guy was recording me without my knowledge. It's creepy. Dennis is overreacting. He's spiraling. It's all so dramatic. That's how she tried to reframe it. His drama, not her betrayal. But Claire had already seen it. The audio, the transcript, the loan documents. Someone had sent her the email too. Eliza didn't know that. Didn't know that her friend, who once toasted to her unbreakable marriage, had heard her voice say placeholder and cashing in, and he's too boring to notice. Didn't know that the group chat without her, yes, there was one, had already been very active. Claire wasn't cruel. She wasn't confrontational. But she was tired. Eliza, she said, gently but firmly. He didn't explode. A pause. He exposed. That silence on the other end of the line? That was Eliza realizing something had shifted. That Claire wasn't reaching for the wine anymore. That the social gravity she'd relied on, charm, polish, manufactured innocence, was evaporating. Fast. She tried again. Claire, come on. You know me. You know I didn't mean it like that. I did know you, Claire said. But I didn't know this version. Eliza laughed, but it was hollow. Defensive. So that's it. One clip and everyone throws me away. No, not one clip. That's when Eliza understood. Claire had seen everything. The Venmo records. The spa receipts. The forged signature analysis. The voice notes. And worse, she wasn't the only one. Mira from book club had forwarded the email. Janine, from yoga, posted a thinly veiled Instagram story about truth bombs detonating in heels. Her hairstylist canceled her upcoming appointment with a "Hey babe, let's reschedule" when things settle down. Even her real estate agent, whom Eliza had once called her soulmate with a lockbox, unfollowed her on Instagram and removed the tagged post of them clinking mimosas after closing on the lake house. Her curated life, turning to ash in real time. Because Eliza had built her social empire like it was PR, glossy, filtered, always favoring the right angle. But now the footage was raw, shaky, and the mic was still on. She called another friend, Tina, straight to voicemail, left a message, then realized halfway through that Tina's husband had been one of Dennis's clients. She hung up, tried a third. Rebecca texted her, "Girl, you won't believe what Dennis is trying to do to me." The reply came 7 minutes later. "I saw the files. Honestly, Eliza, what were you thinking?" And there it was. The collapse. Not loud, not a blowout, but a steady, crushing suffocation under the weight of receipts. The friends she thought she could charm into defense were now rethinking every compliment they ever believed was genuine. Every brunch toast. Every sweet couple selfie. Because once someone hears you call your husband a placeholder in a voice soaked with disdain, it doesn't unhear. And when that same someone reads your digital fingerprints on loan documents you had no legal right to sign, it doesn't forgive. She'd thought she was just spinning a narrative. But she didn't realize the story had already been published. By someone else. With footnotes. The yoga studio sat on Main Street like a repurposed apology, glass walls, eucalyptus wafting through the vents, and a receptionist who spoke exclusively in breathy affirmations. Eliza loved the place. Said it centered her. What it really did was give her an audience. A room full of people who'd never question her curated vulnerability. A stage without microphones where she could stretch, pose, and pretend she was rebuilding herself, one overpriced mat at a time. She arrived at 9:57 a.m. sharp, wearing her lemon-colored Lululemon set, the one she used to call her armor back when she was still collecting compliments like currency. Hair tied high. Water bottle slung under one arm. Her smile was tight. Calculated. The kind that said, "See? I'm thriving." But what she didn't know was that I wasn't chasing anymore. I was closing. And this wasn't revenge. It was removal. Marcus, my lawyer, was already waiting in the lobby. Gray suit. No tie. Calm as ever. He had the manila folder in hand, sealed, with her name typed in bold. No frills. Just facts. Just finished lines. She walked in, all photos in and Instagram ready, pausing only to nod at the girl behind the desk. Then, Eliza Crane? She turned, her reflex smile already forming. Yes. Marcus stepped forward. I'm here on behalf of Dennis Dawson. You've been served. Please read everything thoroughly. He held out the folder. She didn't take it right away. Just stared. Not angry. Not tearful. Just confused. Like she was still trying to compute how her Madame manifestation morning had been interrupted by a calm man with legal precision in his voice. She took it. Opened it. The first page bore my name. The second? A full separation demand, citing irreconcilable differences, emotional misconduct, and financial malfeasance, with attached evidence. Pages 3 through 6 detailed the fraud. Line by line. Signature by signature. Loan amounts. Forged documents. Metadata timestamps. Then came the final page. A letter. Not from Marcus. From me. Just one sentence. You told the world I was nothing. Now the world sees the truth. No signature. No goodbye. No sincerely. Just the sentence. And Eliza standing in a yoga lobby, holding a manila envelope that weighed more than it should have, because it wasn't paper she held. It was consequence. The receptionist looked up, sensing something shift. A few of the other class members were already stretching in the glass-walled studio, catching a glimpse of Eliza's frozen posture and the stranger in the suit. Marcus turned and left. Didn't linger. Didn't explain. She wasn't worth a scene, because the truth doesn't need dramatics. It just needs exposure. And now? She was exposed. Not in a tabloid way. In a quiet, brutal, administrative way. The kind that leaves no wiggle room. The kind that comes with case numbers, filing dates, and a paper trail so thick it muffles even the loudest denials. There would be no reconciliation brunch. No PR recovery arc. No coy captions with sunset filters and growth hashtags. There would be emails. Hearings. A financial reckoning. And the woman who once stood on her yoga mat like a goddess of reinvention was now just a defendant in leggings, trying to hold balance in a room where the floor had already shifted. She asked for one meeting. Just one. Texted Marcus, begged him to pass the message along. Tell Dennis I just want to explain. Please. Just coffee. No tricks. Like she still thought there was a part of me that wanted to hear her side. Like she didn't understand that her side had already been filed, timestamped, and entered into record. Still, I said yes. Not out of sentiment. Out of strategy. Because some things are better said in silence. And some silences deserve witnesses. We met at a small cafe on the edge of town. The kind of place we used to stop in during road trips, back when she pretended she liked things like chipped mugs and drip coffee. She was already there when I walked in, seated in the corner booth, 2 coffees on the table, and that desperate half-smile she used to wear like perfume. Her hands were shaking. Not dramatically. Not tremors. Just that subtle, involuntary flutter that says, I know I've lost the room. She wore a beige sweater, soft makeup, no jewelry. Stripped down. On purpose. This was her I'm just me again costume. The same one she used after our fights in the early years, back when she still cared enough to pretend she didn't want to win. I sat across from her. Didn't touch the coffee. Didn't say a word. She started talking instantly. Dennis, please. I know I hurt you. I know how bad this looks. But you don't know what it's been like for me. I was alone. I felt invisible. You were always working or distracted or just somewhere else. I didn't plan any of it. It just happened. The voice cracked. Tears welled. She reached for my hand. I didn't move. She recoiled, fumbled for her coffee instead, then kept going like the spill of words might drown the weight of the facts. It wasn't love. It wasn't even meaningful. I was stupid, okay? And that loan, it was just a bridge loan. I was going to tell you. I just didn't know how. I thought I could fix it before you noticed. I let her talk for exactly 2 minutes. Watched her spin her threads, tug on old heartstrings, lay out sob story crumbs like I'd follow them back into the trap. Then I reached into my coat pocket. pulled out a single folded page and slid it across the table. She hesitated, like the paper might bite her. Unfolded it. Stared. It was a transcript. A printed copy of the audio file. Her voice. Word for word. He's harmless. Boring. A placeholder. There was no punctuation in her eyes anymore. Just a flicker. Then a collapse. She looked up, lips parted, ready to fight, deny, rewrite. But I stood up before she could speak, straightened my coat, met her eyes one last time, and said, quietly, "You were right." A pause. I was a placeholder. Her mouth opened, too slow. I walked away. Out of the cafe. Out of the script she'd been trying to rewrite. Out of the last performance she thought she still had control over. Because that's what this was really about. Not the money. Not the affairs. Not the fake tears or forged documents. Control. That was the last thing she ever truly worshipped. And now? She didn't even have that. She sat in that booth for 20 minutes after I left, staring at a printed piece of paper like it might somehow erase itself. The coffee went cold. The staff whispered. No one approached her. Because the show was over. And no one claps for the villain after the curtains fall. It came on a Tuesday. Late afternoon. Light rain tapping at the office window. Soft jazz crackling through the old speakers I never bothered replacing. I was reviewing property files, zoning reports, tax maps, simple, solid things. Numbers and plots and coordinates that didn't lie to you or try to kiss your neck while signing your name on a fraudulent loan. My phone buzzed. No name. No preview. Just that same blocked number that had cracked everything open weeks ago like a crowbar to stained glass. I stared at it for a beat, then opened it. Glad I helped. Men like us, we don't shout. We don't hit. We let the truth speak. No emojis. No follow-up. Just that. And below it, an image. It took a moment to load. Low-res. Grainy. Probably from across the room. But clear enough. Eliza. Same wine bar. Same booth where she laughed herself into her own execution. Hair tied up. Oversized coat swallowing her shoulders. No makeup this time. Just her. Alone. Head down. Hands folded. A half-empty glass of red in front of her. Not laughing. Not posing. Not performing. Just sitting. And behind her, through the bar's front window, you could barely make out the reflection of the street. Damp. Gray. Quiet. I didn't reply. Didn't need to. Because that image said everything I'd been waiting to feel. The end wasn't some firestorm or screaming match. It wasn't a courtroom or a tabloid or a neatly wrapped monologue. It was this. A woman who once choreographed every smile now reduced to stillness she couldn't spin. No audience. No narrative. Just silence and her own damn echo. I closed the message. Slid the phone back into the drawer. Took another sip of coffee, still warm. The game was never to punish her. It was to expose her. And the beauty of truth? It doesn't shout. It doesn't chase. It just waits. Then, when it's time, it stands up, nods politely, and leaves her sitting in her own story. Alone.